Hey there, it's Leon. Today we're going to talk about impulse responses, but first I would just like to say thank you to all the people who have subscribed to my channel recently and for writing all the nice things there and for all the constructive feedback I've been getting. It's really awesome. I'm going to take this chance to make a very quick advertisement. My band Ragdoll has just put out our album on vinyl. It's pretty awesome. Not only does it sound beautiful because of the dynamic mastering, but it's on a double splatter LP. It's all my dreams come true, and you can check that out on our website. I will leave a link in the description. The hardest part about getting good recorded guitar tones is all about the mic placement and the post-processing. And in the 21st century, we've got the wonderful technology of impulse responses. You'll need a couple of things, namely an interface, a DAW, Pro Tools, Logic, Reaper, whatever it is you like to use, obviously a guitar cabinet, and a microphone and some kind of power amp. I recommend a flat solid state power amp, something like the Matrix series, basically the best that you can afford. So let's go ahead and make some impulse responses. So the first step is to mic your cabinet with your desired mic and position, in this case a 57 on the dust cap, and then I've wrapped this all in tontine to cut down on some of the room reflections. The next thing is to set up your interface feeding into your power amp at the appropriate level. I'm using a Matrix GT800FX, and that is feeding into the cab. So that's taking my test signal into the cab, and then the signal from the mic is going to a JLM BA4 mic pre, and that is feeding back into my interface into Pro Tools. So let's create a test signal. I'm using Fuzz Measure 2. Go to Measurement, Export Stimulus Signal, and you check the sample rate and the bit depth. Create your test signal there, and we're going to load that into Pro Tools. As you can see here, load it into Pro Tools, and the next step is to set up our audio track. I'm going to bus this and mute it so that it doesn't feed back into my cabinet mic setup, and this means I'll be able to record my test signal without any extra interference. And here we go. And you can absolutely drive your neighbors nuts by doing this. So you can see there that we have captured the response of the cabinet and the microphone in the preamp, and I'm going to go ahead and trim that, and I'm going to bounce it out. Now the format is very, very important here. After I do some repositioning, we are going to make sure that this is routed to the right output so that I can actually bounce it down. I'll mute the test signal, and I'm going to bounce this as an AIFF signal. The reason is that that's what Fuzz Measure, the programming I'm using to generate the IR, needs as a format. So we'll do that and bounce it out. I already had a file there from a previous test, so I'll just overwrite that. And now we are going to go from Pro Tools into Fuzz Measure. So in Fuzz Measure, we want to start a new field recording. And what we're going to do there is in the field recording, that's going to be the IR that we just recorded. I shouldn't say the IR that we just recorded, the signal that we just recorded from our cab and microphone. So let's load that up. And then in the other slot, I'm going to load in the test signal that I use. So that's sine sweep. I should have organized my file a little bit better, but there it is. There's the test signal. And look at that, Fuzz Measure generates a beautiful set of plots, and we can export this impulse response in the same format we did it, AIFF. So what we're going to have to do from here is re-import this into Pro Tools and bounce it down as a wave. First, I will rename my impulse, and I'll put this one up to download if you guys want to test this. I think it normally sounds pretty good, this particular cabinet and mic setup for heavy sounds anyway. So I'm going to import our file. There it is. You can see it's in AIFF format. Drag that one into Pro Tools or Logic or Reaper, whatever you're using. And then you can see there's a whole lot of silence around the impulse response. So we're just going to go ahead and trim some of that. Having a look at the track, changing the track height really, really helps. And we can also, increase the signal by cranking up the gain, which I find really helps. Basically, there's a whole lot of nothing at the start of this impulse, so I'm going to trim it away. And think of this like information. We're just trimming out nothingness at the moment. And the length of your impulse response can be anything from 40 milliseconds if you just want a sort of basic standard resolution IR, all the way up to, like, some programs use 500 millisecond waves. I use an Axe-Fx, so anything over 100 is generally considered excessive, although I think their ultra-res format does use like 170 milliseconds or something like that. But in this case, just think of that extra top-end stuff as capturing more information about your cabinet, your microphone, your room, and your preamp. which is pretty cool. So there we go. Let's export this as a WAV file. And then we can load this either into our IR loader in our DAW, or we can export it into, you know, our modeling device or something like that, whether you're using an Axe-FX, a Helix, a 2Notes or something like that. You just want to make sure that you've got the right bit rate and sample size. And here it is.